Right before we dive into this, if you are enjoying the journey so far, do make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, won't you? And tell me, where in the world are you tuning in from, and what time is it for you right now? Good, now let us step back, shall we? You find yourself in England, the year is 1888. It is a glorious, if slightly oppressive, summer's afternoon, the kind where the air itself feels thick with the promise of a sudden shower, yet stubbornly refuses to deliver. But before you even register the hum of conversation or the distant tinkle of a piano, it is the immediate, visceral press around your ribs that truly commands your attention. You draw a breath, or rather, you try to draw a breath, and it feels like attempting to fill a porcelain vase through a tiny, ornamental spout. The steel embrace, a hidden architecture beneath layers of silk and lace, dictates the very rhythm of your chest. It is tight, almost painfully so. Each inhale is a conscious effort, a shallow, restrained lift that stops short, a frustrated sigh caught somewhere between your throat and your stomach. The scent of freshly cut grass, mingled with the sweet, cloying perfume of roses and lilies, struggles to fully reach your lungs. You can smell it, yes, but it feels distant, filtered, as if your very body is creating a barrier to the full richness of the world. You stand amongst other ladies, their laughter like bird call, their vibrant gowns a kaleidoscope against the manicured hedges. A polite smile is fixed upon your lips, a subtle mask you wear with practiced ease. You adjust the delicate fan in your gloved hand, not so much for air, which seems a futile endeavor, but for the sheer act of movement, a small rebellion against the rigid constraint. You observe Lady Elena across the lawn, her profile elegant, her waist impossibly small. You see the same subtle tension in her shoulders, the way her head is held just so, a slight tilt that hints at the continuous, silent negotiation between comfort and convention. Does she feel it too, this internal struggle, this subtle battle for air in a world that demands such artifice? Her eyes, when they briefly meet yours, hold a shared, unspoken understanding, a fleeting moment of connection over the tight, unyielding fabric that binds you both. A manservant passes with a tray of lemonade, its tart citrus scent briefly cutting through the floral sweetness. You reach for a glass, your movements precise, almost glacial, lest a sudden, unthinking stretch should bring a sharp, unwanted pinch. The cool condensation on the glass is a welcome, brief relief against your fingertips. You take a small sip, the liquid a cool, thin stream against your parched throat, but the deep, satisfying swallow feels stifled, a half-hearted attempt. It is a strange thing, isn't it, to willingly choose discomfort, to sculpt your very body into an ideal, all for the sake of presentation. You wonder about the cost of such beauty, the unseen labor, the quiet suffering that underpins such an outwardly delightful afternoon. You realize that beneath the rustle of silk and the gentle chatter, there is a silent symphony of controlled breaths, a delicate dance between appearance and the simple, fundamental need to just breathe. You feel the gown's weight, silk and velvet pressing down on your shoulders, anchoring you to the manicured lawn. Your spine aches, a dull throb between your shoulder blades, from the relentless effort of holding yourself upright. Every movement is deliberate, a choreographed dance of propriety. You turn your head slowly, a graceful sweep, and catch another lady's eye. Her gaze lingers, assessing, perhaps comparing. It's a constant performance, isn't it? Every gesture, every tilt observed, judged against an invisible standard. You feel the sun's warmth, but also the subtle sheen of perspiration beneath your collar, a quiet betrayal of composure. You watch a young woman accidentally brush a gentleman's sleeve. You see her quick, almost imperceptible flinch, the blush rising despite her attempts. It's a tiny ripple in decorum's placid pond, reinforcing unspoken rules. You wish for a deep, unrestricted stretch, a chance to simply be without constant awareness of posture, your smile. The desire is fleeting, quickly quashed. Conversations murmur, a distant string quartet all merge into a pleasant hum, a backdrop to this elaborate charade. You notice a small bird flitting freely between the hedges, its movements quick, unburdened. You find yourself envying its simple freedom, the sheer, unthinking liberty of its flight. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the choices we make, the gilded cages we construct, all in pursuit of an ideal that sometimes feels impossibly heavy. You step closer to the enormous bed of crimson roses, their petals unfurling in extravagant, almost excessive layers. The scent, initially intoxicating, washes over you, rich and cloying, a dense velvet curtain of fragrance that seems to cling to the humid, languid air. It's not a singular note of rose, though, it's a meticulously blended symphony. There's the sharp, green tang of newly clipped hedges, the delicate, powdery sweetness of distant lilies from the border, and an almost medicinal freshness from the carefully tended herb patches that you glimpse beyond the wrought iron fence. It's an overwhelming perfume, an artificial paradise curated down to its very breath. You take a shallower breath, finding the sheer intensity almost suffocating, a beautiful tyranny on your senses, making your head feel slightly heavy. It is as if the air itself has been thickened with a perfumed liqueur, dense and inescapable. But then, as you move a little closer, leaning ever so slightly, careful not to disturb your meticulously arranged coiffure or your equally meticulous posture, another scent emerges. It's fainter, a subtle, earthy counterpoint to the floral crescendo. Beneath the vibrant, cultivated blooms, there's the distinct damp richness of undisturbed earth. Not just fresh soil, but something deeper, an almost autumnal note of decaying leaves and perhaps a hint of moss, clinging to the shadowed undersides of the dense foliage. This underlying aroma, a whisper of the wild beneath the rigorously tamed, creates a curious tension within you. It's the smell of life and gentle decay, a natural cycle hidden beneath the glossy, vibrant surface of deliberate perfection. You glance at another lady, her fan fluttering languidly near her face, her expression serene, perhaps a little vacant. Does she perceive this subtle dissonance, this hidden discord in the garden's perfect harmony? Or is she entirely caught up in the opulent, intended fragrance, blind to the natural world trying to break through? A low hum of bees, almost drowned out by the distant chatter and the faint strains of the string quartet, momentarily pulls your attention. They move with an unhurried industry between the blossoms, oblivious to the human drama unfolding around them. Their only concern the sweet nectar from these cultivated beauties. You reach out, your gloved fingers hovering just above a velvety rose petal, feeling the faint warmth radiating from it, the softness beckoning. You resist the urge to pluck it, knowing such an act would disturb the perfect arrangement, break the delicate illusion of untouched order. It's a strange thing, this constant interplay, isn't it? The grand human effort to control, to refine, to present an ideal of beauty, only for nature's own untamed, cyclical reality to subtly persist and declare itself beneath it all. You realize that even in the most meticulously crafted paradise, there are always those quiet, persistent whispers of what lies just beyond the perfect facade, reminding you of the raw, unfiltered truth of existence just a layer away. You trace the edge of a perfectly trimmed box hedge with your gloved finger, the rough, dry leaves brushing against the fine kid leather. Every shrub, every flower bed, every gravel path in this expansive garden speaks of rigorous discipline, of nature bent to the will of human design. The lines are impossibly straight, the curves impeccably smooth, a geometry imposed upon the organic chaos of the natural world. You hear the faint, rhythmic snip-snip-snip of distant shears, a persistent, almost hypnotic sound that underscores the meticulous, never-ending effort to maintain this ideal. It feels as if every single leaf has been scrutinized, every errant branch wrestled back into submission. Yet, as you walk further, skirting the edge of the sprawling lawn where groups of guests gather in their finery, you notice something subtle. Tucked away behind a meticulously sculpted topiary of a deer half hidden from the main thoroughfare is a small, wilder patch. Here, a cluster of ivy has begun to creep, defiant and untamed, up the side of an old stone wall, its tendrils reaching, exploratory, beyond the designated boundaries. A tiny, almost insignificant sprig of something green, a weed perhaps, pushes its way determinedly through a crack in the paved path, a miniature rebellion against the order. You pause, your gaze lingering on this small disruption. The contrast is striking, almost unsettling. It's a whisper of the untamed, a hint that nature, left to its own devices, would reclaim this pristine landscape with an indifferent vigor. And in that small, overlooked patch you feel a resonance within yourself. There's a quiet ache, a yearning that echoes the ivy's defiant reach, for a freedom from the constant shaping and pruning that defines your own existence. Every step you take, every elegant turn of your head, every carefully measured smile feels like an act of deliberate cultivation, much like this garden itself. Your eyes drift to another lady, her posture impeccable, her silk gown shimmering in the dappled sunlight. She exchanges a pleasant, if somewhat vacant, glance with a gentleman. You watch her carefully composed expression, the way her hand rests precisely on her fan, and you wonder if beneath that flawless exterior there isn't a similar untamed corner, a wild tendril of thought or emotion trying to break free. It's a shared secret, perhaps this hidden wilderness that refuses to be entirely tamed, even by the strict textures of society. The desire to simply loosen your stays, to shrug off the heavy layers of fabric, to run a hand through your carefully pinned hair, rises within you, a fleeting, almost rebellious urge. But it passes as quickly as it came. You adjust your own fan, a small, subtle movement, and continue your slow promenade. This garden, with its illusion of absolute control, its meticulously crafted perfection, makes you ponder the immense, relentless effort we expend, not just on the external world but on ourselves, to keep our own inherent wildness neatly contained, forever just beneath the surface. It is a constant, quiet struggle, isn't it? This dance between the cultivated self and the heart that yearns for a little bit of beautiful chaos. You hear it first, a distinctive soft snick sound, almost like a delicate insect buzzing, but too regular, too intentional. It's the crisp snap of a fan opening and closing, subtly, rhythmically drawing your attention. Then, woven into the general drone of polite chatter, a different quality of sound emerges. It's a hushed intensity, a gathering of voices that lowers its volume even as its energy sharpens. You find yourself drawn, almost against your will, towards a cluster of ladies near a particularly vibrant fuchsia rhododendron. You don't need to strain to hear words, the body language tells a story all its own. Heads lean in, closer than the usual distance for casual conversation. Eyes, bright with a peculiar, almost predatory gleam, dart quickly from one speaker to the next, then flick away, scanning the party as if to ensure no one else is privy to this exclusive current of information. One lady, her face partially obscured by the very fan that first caught your ear, inclines her head conspiratorially. Her gloved hand gestures with a fleeting, almost invisible motion towards a gentleman laughing a little too loudly by the refreshments table. Her lips move, a rapid, soundless dance, and the slight, almost imperceptible widening of her companion's eyes is all you need to fill in the blanks. A reputation, you realize, is being quietly, elegantly dissected. You feel a strange pull, a morbid fascination that conflicts with a distinct prickle of unease. There's a thrill in witnessing the intricate dance of secrets, the careful construction and deconstruction of social standing, all conducted with such impeccable grace. It's like watching a spider weave its web, beautiful in its complexity, terrifying in its purpose. Another lady in the group offers a tiny, barely there smile, her gaze momentarily catching yours before she swiftly turns back, pulling you into the periphery of their shared confidence. In that brief exchange, there's an unspoken invitation, a silent acknowledgement of the power held within this hushed exchange. You notice how the fans become instruments in this clandestine symphony. They flutter open and close not just for air, but to punctuate a particularly salient point, to obscure a knowing smirk, or to momentarily hide a reaction that might otherwise be too telling. The air itself feels charged with unspoken words, with implied narratives, with judgments delivered like feathered darts from behind silk and lace. You understand that in this carefully constructed world, where direct confrontation is vulgar, the whisper network is the true arbiter of fate. You shift your weight, a subtle movement to appear disengaged, yet you remain keenly aware of the ebb and flow of their hushed tones. It is a world where every gesture is observed, every silence noted, and the truth often lies not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid, in the spaces between the pleasantries. It makes you realize how fragile the edifice of polite society truly is, built upon such delicate, almost invisible threads of rumor and reputation. And you wonder, with a chill that has nothing to do with the summer air, what stories are being woven about you in other, equally discreet corners of the garden. How easily one can be caught in the invisible threads of such a beautiful, dangerous web. The metallic tang of the punch, a little too sweet, lingers as you drift towards a fresh cluster of guests. Here, near the wrought iron gazebo, the smiles seem a fraction less genuine, the eyes a little sharper, a momentary lull. Then a low, modulated voice with a brittle edge cuts through. "And you heard about the Featherstone children, didn't you? Such a shame, really." Mrs. Davies holds her fan delicately, her eyes bright, sweeping across faces, gauging reactions. You notice a lady's mouth tighten, a tiny flinch of recognition. This, you realize, is a deliberate sharing, a subtle transaction. You feel a flicker of unease. It's a carefully placed piece, a whispered rumor instantly recalibrating the Featherstone's social standing. It pulls them down, elevating Mrs. Davies as a purveyor of valuable, if unpleasant, knowledge. Another gentleman shifts, his gaze meeting yours with a wordless understanding of the game. Power, you acknowledge, lies in holding such currency, even if it feels cold, calculated. You offer a non-committal hum. You feel subtle pressure to contribute, to affirm your place in this intricate web. What do you offer? A chosen anecdote, a polite pointed question. The conversation drifts, but the undertone remains. Nods here, fleeting, knowing glances there, each confirming who is up, who is down, who to cultivate, who to avoid. The cool lemonade tastes a little bitter. Social standing isn't merely inherited, it's constantly negotiated, bought and sold in these hushed exchanges. The true currency isn't money, but information wielded with precision, capable of elevating or destroying with a breath behind a silken fan. You wonder how much of your own persona is a defense against this invisible weapon. What is the true cost of navigating these treacherous, gilded waters? You find yourself drifting towards the tea tent, its elegant canvas offering a brief, welcome respite from the insistent afternoon sun. The air inside, though still warm, carries the mingled sense of baked goods and hot tea, a more concentrated olfactory experience than the garden's broader perfume. A liveried footman, impeccably presented, gestures towards a table laden with delicate porcelain, gleaming silver, and tiered stands piled high with an array of sweet and savory temptations. You reach for a delicate teacup, its rim impossibly thin and cool against your gloved finger. The aroma at first is reassuring, a familiar whisper of Earl Grey, perhaps with its subtle, almost exotic hint of bergamot, a comfort amidst the structured chaos of the party. But the very first sip it hits you, it's immediately, undeniably astringent, a dry, almost bitter flavor that aggressively coats your tongue, leaving your mouth feeling rather puckered, as if attempting to draw every last vestige of moisture from the very air around you. You swallow, a tiny, almost imperceptible shudder running through you, forcing the strong brew down. This is tea of a certain pedigree, you know, served precisely as it should be, a mark of impeccable taste and discerning hostesses. But it demands an acquired palate, a stoic acceptance of its sharp, unyielding edge. To genuinely enjoy it feels less like pleasure and more like an exercise in endurance, a quiet demonstration of your refinement. You glance across the elegant linen tablecloth, white and pristine despite the constant flow of guests. Other ladies, their gloved hands equally delicate around their cups, take small, measured sips. Their expressions remain carefully composed, a serene mask of polite appreciation. No one winces, no one makes a face. To do so would be quite unthinkable, a breach of decorum that would speak volumes about one's breeding. This is the proper tea, you understand, the expected taste, a flavor profile that signifies status. Anything less assertive, anything more overtly palatable, would simply be common, lacking the necessary sophisticated bite. You notice a gentleman near the sugar bowl, his brow faintly furrowed as he stirs in 3 generous lumps, his spoon clinking just a little too loudly against the delicate china, a subtle, almost rebellious protest against the tea's stark, uncompromising purity. Then your gaze falls upon the cakes. They are miniature works of art, aren't they? Small, perfect confections, each one a jewel-toned masterpiece, adorned with crystallized violets and swirls of impossibly white, glossy icing that catches the light. You select a tiny lemon tart, its short crust pastry flaking delicately at your touch as you lift it to your mouth. The lemon curd within, a vibrant, almost glowing yellow, promises a burst of fresh zest, a tangy counterpoint to the sweetness. But the taste, oh, it's sweet, yes, overwhelmingly so. A cloying, almost artificial sweetness that prickles at the very back of your throat, entirely overpowering any natural tang of the lemon. It is a sweetness engineered for dazzling visual display, you realize, for impressing the eye, not for any nuanced, genuine pleasure of the palate. It coats your mouth, leaving a sugary film that seems impossible to shift. It's also meticulously beautiful, isn't it? The gleaming silver teapots reflecting the light, the pristine white linen stretched tautly over the tables, the perfectly crafted sweets that sit like precious ornaments on the tiered stands. But the actual taste, the true flavor of it all, is often something else entirely, demanding, almost aggressively refined to the point of discomfort, or conversely, overtly saccharine to the point of cloying. It's a curious paradox, this insistence on such specific, often challenging tastes. The dry ache in your throat, a constant companion from hours of polite chatter, pulls you towards the refreshment table. You sweep your gaze over delicate sandwiches and gleaming teapots. It isn't hunger but a subtler pressure, the unspoken demand to participate, to perform the ritual. You watch a lady select a scone with effortless grace. Her fluid movements become your unconscious guide. You mirror her choosing a small cucumber sandwich. The bread, almost tasteless, is chewed with measured grace. Too eager, you appear gluttonous; too hesitant, aloof. This balance is precarious. A quiet hum of conversation washes over you. You feel the hostess's gaze, a brief, assessing sweep over the guests, over you asterisk. Did you choose correctly? Is your posture impeccable? It's a constant, subtle interrogation, an unspoken test of social acumen. You see a young man's hand tremble, a tiny tea splash on his waistcoat. His flush is palpable, a stark reminder of the fragile line between acceptance and awkwardness. You find yourself observing more than tasting, deciphering head angles, imperceptible nods. Every action here is a learned signal to engage, to conform, to affirm belonging within this elegant, demanding social fabric. The small biscuit you select, its sweetness fleeting, fades against the sharper taste of internal scrutiny. It's a strange hunger, isn't it? Not for sustenance, but for validation. A constant low thrum of anxiety, wondering if you are good enough, if your refinement is convincing. Beneath the charm of tea and cakes, the true feast consumed is acceptance itself, eagerly sought, delicately offered, sometimes withheld. You, like everyone, participate in that unending, quiet hunger. You feel it first, not a touch, not a sound, but a distinct prickle on the back of your neck, a sudden, almost physical sensation of being observed. It's a subtle shift in the garden's atmosphere, a silent acknowledgement that you have, for a fleeting moment, become the focal point. You turn your head slowly, a graceful, practiced movement, and find a constellation of eyes upon you. It is not an aggressive stare, nothing so vulgar, but rather a soft, unwavering appraisal, 1,000 tiny needles of scrutiny that subtly trace the line of your gown, the delicate curl of your coiffure, the very set of your shoulders. You feel the weight of these gazes, a gentle but insistent pressure, as if you are standing under a spotlight, every pore, every carefully constructed detail of your appearance laid bare for silent inspection. Your fan, usually a cool, rhythmic extension of your gloved hand, suddenly feels inadequate, too small to shield you from the collective current of silent questions and comparisons. You adjust the lace at your wrist, a gesture intended to appear utterly casual but truly a silent internal check. Is your gown perfectly smooth? Is your smile fixed just so, not too wide, not too small? Each glance feels like a silent query, a judgment passed without a single word being uttered. You catch the eye of Lady Ashworth, her smile a thin, almost brittle line, her gaze flicking from your bonnet to your shoes. You imagine it lingering, searching for any perceived flaw, any small lapse in the meticulous effort you have poured into your presentation. You try to meet her gaze with an equal measure of poise, a serene confidence, but a familiar warmth rises to your cheeks, a quiet betrayal of your carefully constructed calm. The scent of sweet peas, usually so delightful, seems to intensify, almost cloying in this moment of heightened awareness. The vibrant colors of other ladies' dresses, the glittering jewels, the impeccable tailoring of the gentlemen's coats, it all combines into a kaleidoscopic blur around you, a constant visual comparison. You feel exposed, as if the very air itself amplifies any small imperfection, any momentary lapse in decorum. A stray curl that might have escaped its pin, a barely perceptible wrinkle in the fabric of your skirt, a fleeting moment of distraction, all are, you feel, under silent, exacting scrutiny. The distant strains of the string quartet, usually so soothing, now sound almost like a score to this intricate, demanding performance. It is a subtle, unending dance, this constant presentation, this perpetual, exhausting awareness of being seen, judged, weighed. You watch a young woman stumble slightly on the gravel path, her recovery swift and graceful, yet you see the fleeting glances, the almost imperceptible head tilts amongst the observers. It makes you realize that in this beautiful, glittering assembly, simply existing, simply being, is an act of meticulous performance, a quiet, relentless battle against the tyranny of the collective gaze. And you wonder, with a sudden sinking feeling, how long one can truly endure such constant, unspoken evaluation before the carefully constructed facade begins to crack, revealing the weary individual beneath. It is a peculiar kind of exhaustion, isn't it? This burden of always being on display, always performing, always feeling the silent, heavy weight of 100 appraising eyes. You feel the sun dip slightly, casting longer shadows across the lawn, but the air still holds a heavy, expectant warmth. It's then that you become acutely aware of a different kind of warmth, or perhaps a chill, a persistent, focused attention. You don't need to see him directly, you simply know, a gentleman's gaze. It settles upon you, not overtly bold, but with a quiet, lingering possessiveness that feels strangely heavy. You subtly adjust the fan in your hand, a tiny movement that does little to disperse the sensation. It's a look that sweeps over your meticulously arranged hair, down the elegant line of your neck, across the tight bodice of your gown, before settling briefly on your gloved hands. It is an appraisal you understand, a silent categorization measuring you against an unspoken list of qualities: beauty, refinement, suitability. A shiver, almost imperceptible, runs down your spine despite the humid air. You feel a sudden, intense awareness of your own constructed appearance, every detail now magnified under this silent, masculine examination. You see him now from the corner of your eye, a gentleman in a dark suit, perhaps Mr. Davies, standing a little apart from his companions, a half-smile playing on his lips. His head is tilted just so, an air of casual observation that belies the intensity of his focus. You find yourself instinctively straightening your posture further, a conscious effort to present the ideal image. You offer a small, polite smile in his general direction, a perfectly calibrated response, neither too inviting nor too aloof. You watch as another lady passing nearby also catches his eye. She offers a similar brief acknowledgement, her head held high, her expression carefully neutral. It's a silent, shared performance, this delicate dance of being seen and being judged without a single word exchanged. The scent of fading roses, sweet and slightly melancholic, mingles with the faint, masculine scent of tobacco carried on the breeze. It makes you realize that this isn't just a party, it's a stage, and you are always performing. Your value, your very essence, feels like it is being weighed, measured, and silently assigned a place. It's a peculiar burden, isn't it, to exist under this constant, unspoken judgment, forever striving for an ideal of womanhood that feels both essential and utterly exhausting. This quiet pressure to embody perfection, to be at all times a pleasing spectacle, it's a heavy cost indeed. You feel it first, not a touch, but a distinct, incessant scratch against your skin, just beneath the elegant sleeve of your gown. It's the lace, stiff and unyielding, stubbornly chafing your elbow every time you bend your arm, every time you lift your fan. The sensation is a constant, low-level irritation, a private torment hidden beneath layers of luxurious fabric. You try to shift subtly to alleviate the rubbing, but the tight corsetry restricts significant movement, holding you rigidly in place. The afternoon sun, past its zenith, feels trapped beneath your vibrant silk and the voluminous crinoline. A wave of oppressive heat rises from within your attire, a suffocating warmth clinging to your legs and waist. You almost feel the fine linen petticoats, damp with perspiration, adhering uncomfortably to your skin. Each graceful step, the silk of your skirt rustles with a soft, almost conspiratorial whisper, a sound that promises elegance but to you echoes the intimate burden of its weight. You catch a fleeting glimpse of Lady Elena, her gaze dropping to her own wrist, a tiny, involuntary twitch of her fingers betraying a similar hidden irritation. You both share a secret, a silent understanding of the relentless prickle and press, the unseen battles fought beneath the beautiful facade. The soft, sweet scent of gardenias feels heavy, almost part of the stifling air trapped within your clothes. It is a peculiar thing, isn't it, this elaborate masquerade of beauty and effortless grace. Outward perfection demands a hidden cost, a constant negotiation with discomfort. Every thread, every stitch, every exquisite detail designed to enthrall simultaneously conspires to bind and irritate the body beneath. You wonder about the strange human capacity to endure such intimate irritations for the sake of presentation, the quiet resilience required to maintain the illusion of unblemished elegance. Sometimes the most profound unease is found not in grand declarations, but in the subtle, incessant scratch of lace against your skin. You feel it first, not a sharp discomfort, but a profound, encompassing weight. It's the sheer density of your gown, the layers upon layers of silk, brocade, velvet, and fine linen pressing against your skin, not merely a texture, but a palpable fortification. With every elegant step you take, a soft, sustained rustle follows, a whisper of fabric against fabric that feels less like a sound of movement and more like a gentle, constant declaration of your presence. This isn't just clothing. It's an auditory shield, a silken barrier that softly announces your arrival and paradoxically keeps the world at a polite distance. The very air within your crinoline feels different, a warm, enclosed pocket, insulated from the external garden breeze that subtly ruffles the manicured hedges. You exist within this shimmering, voluminous edifice, almost as if it's a portable fortress. It cradles you, protects you from the casual brush of another guest, from the imagined chill of an unfriendly glance. This complex construction of whalebone, wire, and exquisite textiles becomes your second skin, an armor both beautiful and utterly unyielding. You observe Lady Charlotte across the lawn, her emerald gown catching the late afternoon sun, a vivid splash of color against the verdant backdrop. You see the identical, unyielding posture, the same careful, almost architectural way her dress holds its shape, an independent structure that dictates her movements. When her eyes meet yours, there's a flicker of understanding, an almost imperceptible nod. It's a shared acknowledgement of this elegant protection, this silent pact to present an unblemished, impenetrable front to the world. This exquisite costume, with all its intimate discomforts, the tight stays, the chafing lace, the stifling warmth, serves a crucial purpose. It dictates not just your posture, but your entire comportment, ensuring every gesture is measured, every turn of the head a study in grace. More than that, it deflects casual curiosity, absorbs stray criticisms, and loudly yet silently proclaims your station, your refinement, without a single spoken word. It's a paradox, isn't it? This very restriction, this physical burden, ultimately granting a strange, if stifling, kind of freedom, the freedom from true vulnerability, the freedom to be perceived exactly as you intend, rather than as you truly feel. You realize that sometimes the heaviest garments are the ones that offer the greatest sense of security, wrapping you in an illusion of strength. It makes you wonder what genuine parts of ourselves we truly choose to hide within these beautiful, unyielding walls, and what parts are simply consumed by the relentless demands of such a formidable, yet fragile facade. We build these external structures, don't we? Not just to define ourselves, but to shield ourselves, hoping the armor is strong enough to bear the weight of all those appraising eyes. You reach for a fresh lemonade. As the footman approaches, his white-gloved hand presents a tray of gleaming crystal. The glass is perfectly cool, but as your fingers brush his gloved thumb, you feel a distinct, fleeting warmth. Not sun, but something human. Your eyes, accustomed to overlooking staff, pause. Beneath his immaculate cuff, a sliver of flushed wrist. On the polished silver tray, a tiny, vanishing sheen of dampness catches the light, a silent, brief confession. A detail easily missed, swiftly gone, but once seen, impossible to forget. You take the glass, not lingering, offering a polite, distant smile. He returns it with practiced neutrality, his gaze meeting yours briefly before moving on. But you noticed that dampness on the silver, the faint flush, the subtle tension in his shoulders as he expertly navigates the throng. The rose-scented air now carries a faint, imagined whisper of exertion. He is the unseen machinery. Every sparkling glass, every chilled drink, every pristine linen speaks of relentless hidden effort. Your effortless afternoon, the luxury, rests on the quiet labor of hands like his. You sip the cool lemonade, its sweetness welcome, but your mind lingers on that vanishing moisture, that fleeting warmth. It's a curious contrast, isn't it? The shimmering perfection displayed and the undeniable human cost hidden beneath. This beautiful world, its charm, relies on the diligent work of others. True elegance perhaps isn't just what's seen, but the concealed effort allowing it to exist. A small detail, yet it speaks volumes about the delicate, unequal balance sustaining exquisite perfection. You hear it again, that faint, rhythmic clinking, a distinct sound of porcelain and silver from the depths of the tea tent. It's too precise for a guest, too rapid to be casual. A soft, constant chink, 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 then the muted thump of something heavy being placed down, a sound quickly swallowed by the hum of polite conversation. The other guests, absorbed in their languid discussions, seem entirely oblivious. Your gaze catches a footman as he glides, almost floats between the clustered tables. His movements are a marvel of silent, practiced efficiency, each step economical. He gathers a precarious tower of empty teacups and half-eaten pastries onto his silver tray, his gloved hands never trembling, even as the weight visibly increases. You notice, beneath the spotless white cuff of his jacket, a fleeting flash of red skin on his wrist, a subtle tell of strain swiftly hidden as his arm pivots with effortless grace. It's a momentary, almost invisible confession of physical toll. The air around you, thick with roses and genteel chatter, now seems to carry a ghost of heat, a whisper of exertion that isn't your own. It clings, an imagined aroma of effort cutting through the delicate perfumes. You sip your cool lemonade, its sweetness still artificial, and the chill of the crystal glass feels almost too cold in contrast to the imagined warmth of his unyielding labor. Every crisp linen napkin, every gleaming fork, every perfectly swept gravel path suddenly feels heavy with the echoes of unseen hands tirelessly working. You realize the sheer, relentless scale of human effort beneath this illusion of effortless pleasure. Not just one footman, but dozens of unseen hands. In the kitchens, the scullery, the laundry, the garden. The constant fetching of refreshments, the endless wiping and polishing, the invisible tending to every tiny detail that allows this afternoon to unfurl with such immaculate ease. It's a vast, intricate ballet of sustained toil, utterly unacknowledged by most, yet absolutely essential. Your own delicate afternoon, your leisure, stands entirely upon this invisible foundation, this constant, silent hum of others' tireless work. It makes you ponder, doesn't it, how much of our own comfort, our perceived grace, relies entirely on the unseen, often thankless efforts of those around us. This elegant, beautiful world, its perfection so admired, is built upon a profound, unspoken contract between those who enjoy the spectacle and those who tirelessly produce it. You feel a quiet, almost melancholic unease in that knowledge, a recognition of the hidden cost of such pristine beauty. This afternoon, you realize, is a testament not just to wealth, but to the invisible, enduring architecture of human labor. The afternoon sun, though now dipping slightly towards the horizon, feels far from gentle. You feel it, a persistent, prickling heat that penetrates through the layers of your bonnet, warming your scalp until it almost tingles. It's not a comforting warmth, but an oppressive weight, turning your heavy wool day gown into a miniature oven, trapping the humid air against your skin. The air, thick with the scent of sun-warmed grass and overblown roses, seems to shimmer with the heat, blurring the edges of the distant guests. You feel the first insidious trickle of perspiration, a tiny, itchy bead that traces a slow path from your hairline down your temple, then disappears beneath the tight collar of your dress. Another follows, then another, gathering at the small of your back, creating a clammy, uncomfortable warmth beneath the fine linen chemise and the rigid stays. It's a silent, internal rebellion against the outward display of composure. You subtly adjust your fan, a delicate ivory implement, fluttering it with what you hope is an air of elegant nonchalance. But the breeze it generates is meager, merely circulating the already heavy, stifling air. You glance across the lawn at Lady Beatrice, her face a little too flushed, a tiny, almost invisible sheen of moisture just above her upper lip. She, too, fans herself with a determined rhythm, her eyes darting towards the sliver of shade offered by a large oak tree, before quickly composing herself and resuming a polite smile. It's a shared, unspoken battle, you realize, this silent war against the relentless sun, all waged beneath a veneer of impeccable decorum. The vibrant colors of the flower beds, usually so delightful, now seem to intensify the heat, their brightness almost aggressive. You feel a subtle itch on your forearm, a sensation of warm, damp fabric clinging to your skin, making you long for the cool, smooth touch of bare skin, a fleeting desire to simply shed the heavy, confining layers. But that, of course, is utterly unthinkable. You must endure. You watch a gentleman mop his brow with a silk handkerchief, a gesture of relief that would be considered utterly uncouth for a lady in your position. The simple liberty of such an act feels like an impossible luxury. It is a peculiar thing, isn't it, to willingly encase yourself in such heavy, restrictive attire on a day like this, all for the sake of presentation. This silent, constant endurance, this performance of coolness, when every fiber of your being screams for relief. The weight of beauty, the cost of appearing utterly unbothered, feels truly immense in this relentless sun, a quiet martyrdom for the sake of propriety. Your body, you realize, is constantly negotiating, constantly resisting, even as your outward self remains perfectly composed. The humid air, once merely warm, now feels suffocating, pressing in on you like a damp blanket. You feel a relentless, heavy heat building, not just on your skin, but deep within you, as if the very blood in your veins is simmering. The meticulously pinned curls at your nape, once a testament to your careful toilette, now cling damply to your neck, a constant, irritating tickle that threatens to unravel your composure along with them. The faint scent of your own rising perspiration, mingled with the cloying sweetness of jasmine from a nearby trellis, feels intensely personal, almost a betrayal. You find your gloved hand, seemingly of its own volition, tightening its grip on your fan, the delicate ivory sticks pressing into your palm. You flutter it with a frantic energy that belies your outwardly serene expression, a desperate attempt to stir some fragment of cool air against your flushed face. but the air around you is thick, unmoving, offering no solace, only recirculating the stifling warmth. Your smile, once effortlessly polite, now feels brittle, stretched, a fragile mask that might crack at any moment, revealing the sheer, overwhelming physical discomfort beneath. You glance at Lady Alina again, and this time her own composure seems to waver. Her fan, typically a languid prop, is now working furiously, a blur against her crimson cheeks. You see a tiny, glistening bead of sweat escape the corner of her hairline, tracing a distinct path down her temple before she can discreetly dab it with her handkerchief. It is a small human flaw, a momentary lapse in the rigorous performance, and in that shared, unspoken vulnerability, you feel a peculiar sense of relief, a recognition that you are not alone in this slow, simmering battle against your own body. The rustle of silk around you, the gentle murmurs of conversation, all seem to recede, becoming a distant, irrelevant hum. Your entire world shrinks to the suffocating confines of your gown, to the insistent prickle of lace against damp skin, to the growing pressure behind your eyes. You feel a faint tremor in your hand, a tiny shiver of exhaustion, and you realize that the sheer effort of maintaining this illusion of effortless elegance, of projecting an image of cool, untroubled refinement, is becoming an almost unbearable burden. Your body, you understand, is in open rebellion, threatening to dissolve the carefully constructed facade piece by meticulous piece. It's a strange and humbling truth, isn't it? That for all the intricate layers of fabric, the rigid stays, the perfected posture, the human body retains its fundamental, untamed nature. It insists on its needs, its discomforts, and in moments of such relentless heat, it threatens to strip away every carefully cultivated layer, leaving you exposed. This elegant garden party, with all its beautiful artifice, becomes a quiet battlefield where the will struggles against the flesh, and the fragile art of composure threatens to melt away under the oppressive, relentless sun. You hear it first, a delicate, almost ethereal melody drifting from beyond the rose arbor. The string quartet, their music a soft, intricate lace woven into the humid air, a perfect backdrop to the gentle murmur of voices. Notes precise, harmonious, each pluck, each sweep, a seamless tapestry of sound, meant to soothe, to enchant, to cement the illusion of a perfect afternoon. You lean into the sound, a fleeting escape from the corset squeeze, the forced smiles, the relentless chatter. It's beautiful, a testament to practiced skill, but then your gaze drifts. Lady Finch, pale despite the rouge, clutches her fan with an intensity that contradicts the languid waltz. Lord Harrington's hearty laugh feels a fraction too loud, too forced, against the delicate crescendo. The music plays on, an unwavering stream of cultured sound, a thin, exquisite veneer. It covers whispered gossip, shifts of unease, underlying currents of judgment and ambition. A beautiful lie, this perfect harmony, perfectly concealing the jagged edges of human emotion. Just as the garden is cultivated, so is this musical piece, a deliberate act of masking. The notes are flawless, yet they fail to penetrate the deeper anxieties, the unspoken questions that linger. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? How often we use such beautiful external harmonies to cloak messy, discordant realities. The music is perfect, yes, but its very perfection highlights the imperfection it so gracefully attempts to hide. True peace, true harmony, often resides far beyond the reach of even the most exquisite performance. You feel it, don't you? The distinct crunch of fine gravel under the sole of your polished leather boot, a sound as precise and deliberate as the steps you take. Each movement across the meticulously kept lawn feels less like a casual stroll and more like a sequence in a well-rehearsed ballet. Your arm, crooked just so, waits for the polite offering of a gentleman's arm, a gesture of assistance that is, in truth, an initiation into a carefully structured interaction. You sense the slight shift in air around you, a subtle indication that a new social orbit is about to intersect with yours. Then you see him, approaching with a practiced, measured stride. Lord Ashworth, his presence as polished as his silver-tipped cane, his expression a careful blend of geniality and appraisal. You feel an immediate, almost instinctive tightening in your chest, a subconscious adjustment of your posture, a silent preparation for the performance. Your fan, nestled in your gloved hand, becomes a quiet prop, a potential shield, an instrument to punctuate unspoken thoughts. You meet his gaze with a fleeting, polite acknowledgement, a silent invitation to the dance. The conversation that follows is not a spontaneous exchange, you realize, but a series of well-worn steps. He begins with a comment on the weather, a safe, universally accepted opening. You offer a delicate agreement, a gentle smile, your response a carefully crafted echo of his tone, then a subtle shift, and you are enjoying the Countess's delightful hospitality, I trust. This is not a question for information, but a probe, a test of your social acuity. You respond with appropriate enthusiasm, perhaps a compliment on the roses, a gentle nod towards the elegance of the setting, all delivered with an air of effortless charm. It's a game of mirroring, of subtle affirmations, each phrase a delicate parry and thrust, carefully calibrated to maintain the intricate balance of polite society. You observe Lady Alina from across the rose bushes, engaged in a similar hushed exchange with a younger, eager gentleman. Their movements are almost identical to your own. The slight incline of her head as she listens, the gentle, almost imperceptible flutter of her fan as she speaks, the way his shoulders are squared, his attention entirely devoted to her. You see the faint blush rise on the young man's cheeks as he leans a fraction too close, and Lady Alina's subtle, almost imperceptible step back, a silent reassertion of the proper distance. It's a delicate art, you think, this constant negotiation of proximity, of unspoken boundaries, all played out under the watchful, if discreet, eyes of the entire party. There is a rhythm to it all, a silent, intricate choreography. The way guests seamlessly join and depart from conversational circles, the precise timing of a shared laugh, the exact moment a gentleman may offer his arm for a stroll. Every gesture, every glance, every nuanced turn of phrase feels like a predetermined step in an elaborate, unending dance. And beneath the superficial ease, the pleasantries, you feel a current of tension, a quiet hum of anxiety. Each interaction is a calculation, a subtle maneuver to gain or maintain social favor, a test of wit and decorum. As Lord Ashworth gracefully bows and moves on to another group, leaving a faint scent of starched linen and discreet cologne in his wake, you feel the release of a breath you hadn't realized you were holding. The air, though still warm with the lingering scent of roses, feels momentarily lighter. It's a peculiar exhaustion, isn't it, to constantly be aware, to constantly perform. You realize that in this beautiful, manicured garden, true spontaneity feels almost forbidden, a wild thing that would disrupt the carefully cultivated order. Instead, you are all dancers in a rigid, elaborate choreography, moving through a grand ballet of unspoken rules, each step a testament to the powerful, relentless demands of propriety. You feel it, don't you? A sudden, distinct coolness against your gloved palm, a delicate weight passed into your hand by a young footman with an almost imperceptible bow. It's a tussamussy, a tightly bound cluster of tiny, freshly picked flowers and herbs. The faint chill of dew still clings to its petals, a refreshing contrast to the humid air of the garden. Your fingers, encased in kid leather, trace the smooth ribbon wrapped around the stems, feeling the crispness of the green leaves. The immediate scent is a burst of mixed fragrances, the sharp, clean bite of rosemary, a hint of delicate violet, and something else, subtle yet significant. Your mind instantly begins to decode, this isn't just a pretty bouquet. It's a silent language, a whispered message in bloom. The rosemary, you recall, speaks of remembrance, of loyalty. The violet, a touch of modesty, perhaps. But what else is hidden within this miniature arrangement? Your gaze darts over the tiny blooms, searching for the telltale color, the specific leaf that might complete the phrase, that might reveal the sender's true intent. You glance towards Lady Alina, observing her from beneath the brim of your bonnet. She too holds a tussamussy, a slightly larger, more elaborate one, its colors bolder. You see her brow furrow just a fraction, a fleeting moment of contemplation before she composes her features into a serene smile for a passing gentleman. Does hers carry a different message, a more ardent declaration, perhaps, or a subtle warning? You wonder at the unspoken currents flowing between you, between everyone here, all communicated through these seemingly innocent floral offerings. The cool weight in your hand feels suddenly significant, a tiny, fragile secret. It's a thrill, a moment of heightened curiosity that sends a faint ripple through your carefully maintained composure. The delicate petals, so ephemeral yet capable of conveying such weighty sentiments, it makes you realize the subtle power of silence, the elegance of conveying so much without uttering a single word. These beautiful scented bundles become conduits for hopes, desires, and even anxieties, all hidden beneath a veneer of natural beauty. It's a testament, isn't it, to our human need for connection, for understanding, even when direct words are too bold, too dangerous, or simply not permitted. And you ponder the courage it takes to send such a message, and the equal courage in choosing to interpret it. You feel it, a small posy, delicate and scented, pressed into your gloved hand by a gentleman whose gaze lingers a fraction too long. It's not the formal tussamussy from earlier, but a more personal, deliberate offering. The initial scent is of sweet jasmine and modest forget-me-nots, seemingly innocent, but as your fingers adjust their grip, you feel a sharp prick. A tiny thorn, hidden beneath the leaves of a perfect red rose, has pierced your glove. It's a pinprick, yet it sends a jolt of unease. Your eyes dart to the red rose, not just passionate love, but its thorns speak of caution, of pain. And the jasmine, grace and elegance, yes, but also a potent sensuality, a more audacious message than the simple forget-me-nots. This combination is powerful, a silent declaration both alluring and undeniably hinting at danger. The small wound throbs, a physical reminder of hidden meaning. You glance at the gentleman. He is now talking to Lady Alina, his back to you, but his presence, the unspoken challenge of his floral missive, feels potent. The image of that hidden thorn, the mix of flowers, creates a stark contrast to the civilized scene. It's a promise, you realize, wrapped in beauty, but carrying a sharp, unspoken caveat. The gentle breeze feels charged with subtle tension. The garden's vibrant hues deepen the mystery of this tiny, thorny gift. You feel a prickle of fascination, mixed with growing apprehension. What does he truly mean? What is the cost of accepting such a beautiful, complicated truth? This small, silent object, brimming with coded sentiments, makes you aware of the dangerous beauty of unspoken language. The world, you realize, often speaks not through words, but through sharp, profound messages hidden just beneath the surface, waiting to draw blood. You hear it first, a sharp, clear peal of laughter, utterly unlike the polite murmurs that have woven through the afternoon. It cuts through the refined hum like a sudden, bright streak of color through a muted tapestry. Not the tinkling, self-conscious giggle of a young lady, but a raw, unbridled burst of childish delight, full and resonant, carrying an astonishing lack of apology or restraint. It echoes from somewhere near the far end of the garden, near the espaliered fruit trees, and instantly, subtly, the entire atmosphere shifts. The elegant drone of conversation falters, a tiny, almost imperceptible hiccup in the well-oiled machinery of the garden party. Heads turn, a collective, silent swivel, a momentary breach in the carefully maintained composure of the adults. You feel an almost physical jolt, a sudden awareness of the quiet, almost suffocating order that has permeated every corner of this gathering. Your gaze, along with a dozen others, instinctively sweeps towards the source of the sound. You glimpse a small figure, a boy no older than 7 or 8, darting wildly between the perfectly manicured rose bushes. His light linen suit, designed to be pristine, is already rumpled, his dark hair disheveled, tumbling across his forehead as he chases something unseen, perhaps a butterfly or a stray bee. Another peal of laughter follows, this one closer, bubbling up from sheer, unadulterated joy, completely oblivious to the hundreds of appraising eyes now fixed upon him. He throws his arms wide, a gesture of pure, uninhibited freedom, and stumbles, falling with a soft thump onto the immaculate lawn, only to erupt into another fit of giggles as he scrambles back to his feet. A woman nearby, perhaps his mother, lets out a small, sharp gasp, her hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with a mixture of embarrassment and a fleeting, almost guilty smile. You see other ladies exchange subtle, knowing glances, a ripple of mild disapproval passing through the group. Such exuberance, such a lack of self-awareness, feels jarring in this setting, a discordant note in the carefully orchestrated symphony of propriety. The intense floral scent of lilies, usually so calming, now seems to heighten the tension, a perfume too heavy for this unexpected, boisterous interruption. You find your own lips twitching, a flicker of a smile threatening to break through your own carefully maintained expression. There's something undeniably infectious about such pure, unfettered joy, a stark contrast to the polite, constrained delights that have colored your afternoon. For a moment you almost feel a release, a loosening of the tight strictures that bind you, a momentary urge to simply run, to laugh without thought, to fall onto the soft grass without a second thought for your gown or your reputation. But the moment passes. The boy's governess, a woman of severe expression, quickly appears, her voice a low, firm murmur as she gently but firmly guides the child away, his cheerful protests quickly fading into a subdued quiet. The hum of conversation slowly resumes, a little stiffly at first, then settling back into its familiar, smooth rhythm. The laughter is gone, replaced by the polite tinkle of teacups and the measured cadences of adult discourse. But the impression lingers. That brief, bright interruption, a flash of untamed life, serves as a poignant reminder. It highlights the immense, almost exhausting effort of maintaining decorum, of suppressing the spontaneous, the natural, for the sake of presentation. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? What parts of ourselves, what pure joys do we learn to stifle, to hide away, as we grow into the roles society expects of us? This brief, unfiltered moment, you realize, has exposed a quiet hunger for genuine, unburdened delight, a yearning for the wild, forgotten freedom of a child's unrestrained laughter, even in the most cultivated of settings. The silence after the child's laughter feels almost louder than the laughter itself. A sudden, uncomfortable void. You feel the return of the tight press of your corset, the stiff weight of your gown, grounding you, reminding you of the intricate cage you inhabit. The lingering echo of that unfettered joy, though brief, has left a sharp, almost aching contrast against the humid air. You turn your gaze back to the groups of ladies and gentlemen, their conversations resuming like carefully tuned instruments, a hum of polite discourse. The string quartet, momentarily overshadowed, picks up its melody with renewed vigor, but now you see the subtle strain in their smiles, the practiced ease that seems, to your suddenly sharpened perception, almost a desperate effort. Lady Elena smooths her gloved hand over her skirt, a gesture that appears casual, yet hints at a deeper, restless energy beneath the silk. The air, still sweet with roses and lilies, feels suddenly heavy with expectation, with the unspoken demand for seamless propriety. You watch the space where the child had so recently tumbled, a patch of grass still slightly disturbed, a faint indentation marking his momentary, joyous rebellion. It's a tiny scar on the perfect lawn, a testament to a wildness that for a moment broke through the meticulously cultivated order. You feel a familiar ache in your shoulders, a tension that has nothing to do with posture and everything to do with suppression. This world, so impeccably ordered, seems to demand a constant editing of oneself, a carving away of natural impulse until only the sculpted, acceptable form remains. The memory of the child's unrestrained laughter is a poignant echo of a freedom you vaguely recall, a natural kingdom long since ceded for the polite, gilded cage of adulthood. It makes you wonder about the journey, doesn't it? From that unburdened, spontaneous delight to this elegant but undeniably constrained existence. What do we truly gain, and what do we so painfully lose in the relentless pursuit of propriety? This beautiful garden, with all its cultivated perfection, now feels less like a sanctuary and more like a carefully guarded prison, holding not just flowers, but the echoes of a lost, wilder self. You hear it first, a sudden sharp cough that tears through the polite drone of conversation. It's not a gentle throat clearing you instantly recognize, but a dry, insistent hack, a rattling sound that seems to echo just a fraction too long in the humid air. The precise, rhythmic strumming of the distant string quartet falters, almost imperceptibly, as if even the music holds its breath. You feel a cold prickle, an icy tendril of dread that snakes its way past your tight stays, a stark contrast to the oppressive warmth of the afternoon. Your gaze, along with many others, is drawn immediately, instinctively towards the sound. You find its source. A young lady, Miss Albright, standing near the lemonade stand, her vibrant lemon-yellow gown now seeming to mock the pallor of her face. Her fan is raised not to cool herself but to shield her mouth, a desperate, almost futile attempt to muffle the sound, to hide the undeniable tremor that runs through her slender frame. Her cheeks, usually so pale, now carry a delicate, yet feverish blush, and her eyes, when they briefly meet yours, hold a raw, terrified vulnerability that speaks volumes. Heads turn, a swift, almost imperceptible shift in the group's dynamic. Smiles, once fixed, falter for a fleeting second. Gazes dart from Miss Albright to her companions, then quickly return to their previous placid positions, but not before a flicker of shared apprehension is exchanged between them. The polite murmur of society conversation, which had been so fluid, now feels stilted, punctuated by moments of awkward silence. You notice Lady Elena's hand, usually so steady, tremble ever so slightly as she lifts her teacup to her lips. No one speaks of it, of course. To do so would be quite improper, a jarring acknowledgement of an unpleasant truth. The vibrant scent of roses, usually so delightful, suddenly feels heavy, cloying, almost medicinal. The joyful tinkle of the string quartet seems to lose its charm, now sounding less like a celebration and more like a forced gaiety, a desperate attempt to drown out the unspoken fear. You feel a tightening in your own chest, a phantom echo of the cough, and a sudden, intense awareness of the delicate balance of health, of life itself. The crisp, clean taste of your lemonade feels momentarily bitter, a sharp contrast to the sweet, deceptive calm of the party. It's a stark reminder, isn't it, that even in this meticulously cultivated paradise, amidst all the beauty and composure, a lurking shadow remains. The spectre of consumption, the silent, relentless threat that can shatter any illusion of perfect health, of perfect lives. It's a disquieting thought to feel such vulnerability within such a fortress of decorum. A quiet unease, a cold breath of reality in the heart of the summer's day, reminding you that even perfection can be tragically, irrevocably fragile. That dry, hacking cough, Miss Albright's sudden, unsettling cough, still echoes in your ears. It leaves a phantom dryness in your own throat, a sour taste on your tongue that the sweetest lemonade cannot quite dispel. The memory of that sharp, insistent sound makes the humid garden air feel heavier, no longer merely oppressive but thick with an unspoken vulnerability. You feel a cold prickle, an icy tendril of dread that snakes its way past your tight stays, a stark contrast to the oppressive warmth of the afternoon. You watch her now, a fragile bird in her lemon gown, being gently led away by a concerned gentleman, her movements almost unnaturally stiff, as if each elegant step costs her immense, unseen effort. Her face, usually so composed, is now etched with a quiet strain, a public display of private suffering. The way other guests subtly shift their weight, creating larger, almost imperceptible pockets of space around her departure, is a silent testament to the fear that lingers, a testament to the swift, quiet distancing that occurs in the face of such an intimate threat. The polite murmur of society conversation, which had been so fluid, now feels stilted, punctuated by moments of awkward silence. Your teacup fine bone china feels impossibly delicate in your gloved hand, its exquisite painted roses a stark contrast to the strength it seems to lack. It's beautiful, fragile, easily shattered, much like life itself, isn't it? A single fall, a careless bump, and it could all be gone. The sunlight, once so golden and warm, now feels thin, almost brittle, as if it too might break. Even amidst the vibrant life of the garden, the scent of fresh-cut grass and blooming roses, you perceive an undercurrent of decay, a whisper of mortality that makes the very air feel heavy, almost laden with a sense of impending loss. You glance at Lady Elena. Her fan, usually so artfully deployed, lies still in her lap, her eyes fixed on some distant point in the hedges. She doesn't need to speak, you both understand. This unspoken vulnerability, this shared anxiety, hangs heavy between you, heavier than the humid air itself. The sweet, cloying perfume of gardenias from a nearby bush, usually so enchanting, now feels almost suffocating, a floral shroud. Your own breath feels shallow, a conscious, almost fearful act, as if each inhale might draw in not just air, but the invisible tendrils of illness that seem to float through the otherwise pristine atmosphere. It's a chilling truth, this constant, intimate companion of mortality. To live beautifully, perfectly, yet to know that beneath the silk and the smiles, the porcelain of existence can crack so easily, so irrevocably. It makes you value each breath, each moment, doesn't it? A fragile existence, exquisitely adorned, yet always, always just a breath away from breaking. It's a quiet, profound unease that underpins every elegant gesture, every polite word, reminding you that even in the most beautiful of settings, you are never truly far from life's inherent fragility. You feel it, don't you? That sudden, almost painful cessation of sound, a vacuum where pleasantries once flowed. A conversation, perhaps about the scandalous new play or the dubious lineage of a minor peer, has just collapsed, leaving a gaping, awkward hole in the polite hum of the garden party. The silence descends, not gradually but like a heavy, unexpected blanket smothering the elegant chatter. And then, into that sudden human void, other sounds rush in, magnified, insistent. The low, resonant drone of a bumblebee, previously unnoticed, now seems to fill the air, buzzing loudly past your ear as it investigates a particularly vibrant rose. You hear the crisp, dry rustle of leaves on the ground, stirred by a breath of wind, a sound that moments ago would have been utterly imperceptible. A tiny, almost aggressive chirping from a hidden bird in the dense green hedge nearby becomes startlingly clear, a frantic, unedited declaration in a world of careful modulation. You feel a tension tighten around you, a palpable discomfort that makes your tight stays feel even more restrictive. Your eyes dart almost instinctively from the face of the lady opposite you, who has just delivered the final, definitive, and utterly unanswerable pronouncement to your teacup, then to the manicured lawn. No one seems to know quite where to look or what to say. There's a faint, almost imperceptible cough from a gentleman a few feet away, a desperate attempt to break the spell. Lady Alina adjusts her fan with a crisp, almost violent snap, the sound unnervingly loud in the quiet. The air, thick with the cloying scent of roses and the artificial sweetness of the iced cakes, now carries a sharper note of human unease. The distant, muted strains of the string quartet, usually a comforting backdrop, seem to recede, leaving this immediate heavy silence entirely bare. This is the moment you realize where the carefully constructed facade of effortless ease begins to strain, where the wild, unfiltered sounds of nature expose the raw edges of human awkwardness. It's a curious thing, isn't it? How uncomfortable we are with true silence, how desperately we strive to fill every void with words, with music, with the manufactured sounds of society. Nature, you think, simply is asterisk, its cacophony utterly unbothered by our fleeting human predicaments, our social blunders. And you wonder if sometimes that unvarnished, unapologetic honesty in the hum of an insect or the rustle of a leaf isn't precisely what we are most afraid to hear. You feel it, don't you? That heavy, clinging quiet that follows a silence. It's not an absence of sound, but an absence of asterisk words, asterisk, a palpable void that suddenly presses in, thicker than the humid air itself. The gentle rustle of silk, the distant, faint tinkle of the string quartet all seem to recede, leaving this unspoken moment stark and exposed. It's in the pregnant pause, isn't it, that the loudest communications truly begin. A conversation, perhaps about a delicate social blunder or a veiled insult, has just faltered, leaving a gaping, awkward hole in the polite hum of the garden party. You feel a tension tighten around you, a palpable discomfort that makes your tight stays feel even more restrictive. Your eyes dart almost instinctively from the face of the lady opposite you, whose lips are now pressed into a thin, unreadable line, to your teacup, then to the manicured lawn. No one quite knows where to look or what to say. But the air is no longer still. It's charged, vibrating with unspoken truths and judgments, a silent storm brewing beneath the surface of impeccable etiquette. You notice Lady Alina's hand, usually so languid and graceful, now gripping her fan with an almost fierce intensity, her knuckles betraying a sudden white strain. Her gaze, when it briefly flickers to yours, holds a raw, unspoken plea, a silent acknowledgement of the precarious tightrope you all walk. A gentleman nearby clears his throat with an unnecessary loudness, a desperate, clumsy attempt to shatter the crystalline quiet. His eyes dart around, seeking a safe harbor, finding none. Every averted glance, every slight shift of weight, every minuscule adjustment of a hat or a glove now speaks volumes, broadcasting fear, discomfort, or a keen, almost predatory, understanding of the power dynamics at play. The sweet, cloying scent of roses, once so charming, now feels almost suffocating, a floral blanket too heavy to breathe beneath, mingled with the faint, metallic tang of unease. The vibrant colors of the gowns, once a delight, now seem almost garish, too loud for this hushed moment, drawing unwanted attention to the silently straining figures within. You feel a prickle on your skin, a phantom sensation, as if the unsaid words themselves are manifesting as tiny, sharp barbs in the air around you, each one carrying a weight of accusation or silent scorn. This is a battle, you realize, not with swords or shouts, but with the potent weapons of silence and suggestion, where reputations can be made or shattered without a single syllable spoken aloud. It's a chilling realization, isn't it? That the deepest truths, the most profound judgments, are often delivered not through elaborate declarations, but in the eloquent absence of words. The true language of this society isn't spoken. It's asterisk felt asterisk, a current of subtle, devastating understanding that flows beneath the surface. You recognize the quiet power of these unspoken communications, the way a collective silence can scream louder than any individual voice, capable of carving out deeper wounds than any sharp retort. And you wonder, with a distinct shiver that has nothing to do with the summer air, what silent messages you yourself are broadcasting, and what unsaid truths are being read in your own carefully composed expression. Sometimes the most terrifying thing is not what is said, but the overwhelming, undeniable force of what is left utterly, chillingly unsaid. You feel it first, a smooth, almost viscous sensation, the words coating your ears as if poured from a crystal decanter. Lord Ashworth, his eyes glinting with a practiced charm, steps close enough that you catch the faint scent of his expensive cologne. My dear lady, he begins, his voice a low, resonant purr, your discernment in selecting such a truly magnificent gown is quite peerless. It truly does illuminate the very essence of your exquisite grace. Outwardly, you offer a composed smile, a slight tilt of your head in acknowledgement. Inwardly, however, you feel a faint, unpleasant stickiness settle upon you, as though the sweetness of his words has left a residue. It's too polished, too perfect, a confection of language designed to disarm. The flattery, so lavish, feels less like genuine admiration and more like a carefully weighed currency. You sense the implicit expectation beneath it. An obligation to continue embodying this exquisite grace, to maintain the performance he so generously applauds. It's a subtle claim, a gentle tether disguised as praise, reminding you of the expectations that bind your every choice. The scent of jasmine, usually so delightful, seems to intensify, almost cloying in this moment of heightened awareness. You see Lady Alina, a little further off, receive a similar deluge of compliments from a younger man. Her smile, though perfectly maintained, holds a faint, almost imperceptible tension around the eyes, a shared weariness in this endless exchange of gilded words. The air, still warm and humid, seems to hum with these unspoken transactions. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, about the true nature of such carefully chosen compliments. Are they gifts, or are they subtly fashioned chains, binding you more tightly to the very image they praise? The sweet taste of approval, you realize, often comes with an enduring, slightly bitter aftertaste, a quiet discomfort that lingers long after the words themselves have faded. You feel it, don't you, that lingering sweetness on the air, the echo of Lord Ashworth's carefully chosen words still coating your perception. Exquisite grace, he said, his gaze fixed upon your gown, upon you. But the initial warmth of that praise has now begun to cool, leaving behind a subtle, almost imperceptible film, like forgotten syrup on a fine linen cloth. It's not a gift freely given, you realize, this deluge of flattery. There's always an unspoken price, a quiet expectation that settles upon your shoulders, heavier than the silk of your dress. You turn your head, a deliberate, slow movement, and your eyes drift towards the gentleman who offered the compliment. He stands a little further off now, engaged in a vibrant conversation with another, younger lady, his attention seemingly elsewhere. Yet you feel it, don't you? A thread, invisible but potent, still connecting you to him. His compliment has opened a subtle ledger, an unspoken account in the intricate economy of social standing. You have been praised, and now you are in some quiet, undeniable way indebted. The debt is not in coin, but in adherence. You must continue to be exquisite to maintain the grace he lauded. Any deviation, any falter in your performance would be a disappointment, a quiet breach of contract. The scent of overblown roses, heavy and cloying in the humid air, seems to underscore this peculiar transaction, a richness that comes with its own subtle demands. You notice Lady Alina across the lawn, her face alight with what appears to be genuine pleasure as another gentleman bows slightly, offering a few murmured words of admiration for her bonnet. But as her eyes meet yours for a fleeting moment, you perceive a shadow, a subtle flicker of unease, a shared recognition of the unspoken weight behind such pleasantries. Her smile, though charming, seems to stiffen a fraction, becoming less an expression of joy and more a careful preservation of the image that has just been so warmly affirmed. It's a constant, isn't it? This delicate balance of receiving and repaying, always under the watchful eye of society. You instinctively adjust your fan, a subtle motion that is both a gesture of cooling and a reaffirmation of composure. The very act of accepting such praise requires a reciprocal performance, a display of gratitude and continued elegance. You realize that in this world of meticulous appearances, even the most delightful words are rarely without their transactional intent. They serve to define, to categorize, to bind you to a specific, often restrictive, role within the social tapestry. You are, in essence, being polished, curated for display. And the cost of that polish is a constant, quiet vigilance, a never-ending effort to meet the expectations subtly set by every admiring glance, every well-turned phrase. It makes you ponder, doesn't it, this strange currency of praise. It promises elevation, affirmation, yet simultaneously imposes a delicate, heavy chain. To be seen, to be admired, is to consent to a subtle form of ownership, a perpetual obligation to remain precisely what others expect you to be. You wonder if true freedom exists in a world where even the kindest words carry such a profound and inescapable debt, forever binding you to a role, a facade that feels both utterly essential and utterly exhausting to maintain. It's a double-edged sword, this praise, isn't it? Both a balm and a burden, a reminder that in this carefully constructed garden, nothing, especially acceptance, truly comes for free. You see her across the lawn, under the shade of the weeping willow, Lady Elena in her new gown. It's not just the vibrant shade of sapphire striking against the emerald green of the hedges, but something about the way the fabric moves, a subtle liquid flow that seems to shimmer even in the dappled sunlight. Your gaze lingers, tracing the lines of the expertly tailored bodice, the generous sweep of the skirt, and a curious, almost phantom sensation rises in your fingertips. You imagine the tactile pleasure of that material. You feel it, don't you? The cool, almost slick caress of Parisian silk, a density that drapes with an effortless, expensive weight, unlike the slight stiffness of your own, perfectly respectable but decidedly English brocade. You can almost sense the whisper of it against a bare arm, a delicate glide that promises pure luxury, a sensation of being enveloped in something utterly superior. It's a fabric that speaks of effortless wealth, of trips to the continent, of couturiers whose names are breathed with hushed reverence. The thought itself leaves a faint, almost metallic tang on your tongue, a bitter taste that clashes with the sweet air of the garden. You subtly adjust the delicate fan in your hand, a tiny, almost imperceptible tremor running through your gloved fingers. You feel a familiar prickle of inadequacy, a quiet sting that settles just beneath your skin. Your own gown, a masterpiece in its own right, suddenly feels a fraction less vibrant, its texture a little coarser, its fit not quite as impossibly perfect. It's a peculiar torture, this constant, silent comparison, this internal audit of one's own standing against the visible, undeniable excellence of another. You watch as a gentleman approaches Lady Elena, his head inclining in an exaggerated bow, his eyes undeniably drawn to the shimmering fabric. You see the subtle, almost reverent way his gaze sweeps over her, a silent acknowledgement of her impeccable taste, her undeniable status, reinforced by every lustrous fold of her dress. Her smile as she accepts his compliment seems to take on an added sheen, a quiet confidence born from the knowledge that she is, for this afternoon at least, the undeniable epitome of sartorial perfection. The distant strains of the string quartet, playing a light, airy waltz, seem to underscore the graceful, flowing movements of her silk, almost as if the music itself were woven into its luxurious threads. You take a slow, shallow breath, the scent of fresh-cut grass suddenly feeling less invigorating, more mundane. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how much of our internal happiness, our sense of self-worth, is inextricably tied to these external displays, to the quality of a fabric, the cut of a gown. This quiet, relentless internal tally, this constant measurement against others, it's an exhausting business. And you realize that sometimes the softest, most beautiful silk can carry the sharpest, most uncomfortable barb of envy, leaving a lingering, almost phantom ache in its wake. You feel it, don't you? That lingering image of Lady Elena's sapphire silk, the way it draped, the undeniable quality that speaks of Parisian ateliers and boundless expense. It's a subtle itch in your mind, a persistent mental calculation that begins to unfold without your conscious command. Your own gown, though impeccably tailored and made of fine English brocade, suddenly feels heavier, its rustle less refined, its colors a fraction less vibrant in your mind's eye. It's a silent, almost cruel mathematics, this act of social and material comparison, constantly subtracting from your own perceived value, adding to hers. You find your gaze drifting across the manicured lawn, not truly seeing the blooming roses or the bustling guests, but rather tallying. You notice the shimmering diamonds at Lady Davy's throat. Are they larger than your own modest pearls? You register the perfectly coiffed hair of Miss Albright. Is her hairdresser more skilled, her pins more secure, her natural curl more forgiving? Every visible detail of another's presentation becomes a data point in this relentless internal ledger, silently weighed against your own. The very air, thick with the scent of lilies and the hum of polite conversation, seems to carry these unspoken comparisons, a constant undercurrent beneath the veneer of geniality. You feel a familiar tension in your shoulders, a subtle tightening in your chest that has nothing to do with your corsetry and everything to do with this quiet, relentless audit of yourself. A prickle of inadequacy, or perhaps a fleeting, almost guilty surge of satisfaction if, just for a moment, you find yourself on the favorable side of a particular comparison. You see a young woman, her fan fluttering nervously, her eyes darting between her companion's new emerald brooch and her own simpler, yet elegant sapphire one. You recognize that flicker of unease, that instantaneous internal reevaluation of worth, because you feel it too. It's a shared secret, this constant, silent game of measurement and judgment played out in the private chambers of the mind, yet influencing every public gesture. The distant strains of the string quartet playing a light, airy waltz seem to fade into the background, becoming mere white noise against the sharper, more insistent clatter of your own internal calculus. You take a sip of your lemonade, the artificial sweetness momentarily dissolving on your tongue, only to leave a lingering, slightly bitter aftertaste, a physical manifestation of the mental ledger you've just been balancing. This garden party, ostensibly a place of leisure and delight, transforms into a subtle battlefield of appearances, where status is won and lost in the minute details of attire, accessory, and effortless grace. Every compliment given, every envious glance received reinforces this intricate, demanding system. It's a peculiar burden, isn't it, to constantly measure oneself against an ever-shifting, externally defined ideal, to live in a world where your worth feels inextricably tied to the perceived quality of your gown, the size of your jewels, the flawless execution of your composure. This relentless social mathematics, this quiet, often cruel comparison, becomes a driving force, pushing you to refine, to improve, to acquire. But you wonder with a sudden quiet weariness if this endless pursuit of perfection, this constant tallying, ever truly leads to a sense of contentment. Or does it merely perpetuate a profound, insatiable hunger for something always just beyond reach, always a fraction grander, a touch more exquisite, leaving you perpetually wanting? This intricate dance of material and social comparison, you realize, leaves an indelible mark, subtly shaping not just what you wear, but how you perceive your very place in the world. You feel it first, a sharp, acrid sting in your nostrils, utterly alien to the garden's sweet embrace. It's the unmistakable, sulphurous tang of a struck match, a brief chemical assault that cuts through the cloying perfume of roses and lilies. Your eyes track the fleeting wisp of smoke towards a small cluster of gentlemen near the fountain. One, Mr. Abernathy, is holding a small, polished wooden case, not a snuff box, but something newer, more intricate. He snaps it shut with a decisive click, a sound strangely jarring against the distant strains of the string quartet. "Marvelous clarity, isn't it?" he declares, his voice carrying a little too loudly across the lawn. Captured the entire family, even little Algernon, in a single asterisk photograph. No need for tedious sittings, you see, a moment quite literally preserved forever. He offers a smug smile, catching the eye of a companion who nods with a mixture of awe and thinly veiled skepticism. You feel a curious jolt, a mix of fascination and a distinct, almost primal unease. A photograph. A captured instant, the very idea feels intrusive somehow. Your own carefully constructed composure, your fleeting smile, the ephemeral rustle of your silk gown, all here now in this moment, could be frozen, forever held in silver salts. It's a strange permanence, isn't it? A stark contrast to the fluid, ever-changing dance of the garden party, where impressions are momentary, easily forgotten or reshaped. You glance at Lady Elena. Her usual serene expression is momentarily clouded, her brow faintly furrowed as she sips her tea. You imagine her contemplating the implications, the sudden, almost terrifying possibility of a moment, a gesture, a candid, unflattering expression being preserved beyond its intended lifespan. The effortless charm, the carefully curated elegance, feels suddenly precarious, vulnerable to this new, uncompromising eye. The aroma of the struck match still faintly lingers, a sharp, unsettling reminder of something new and powerful entering this delicate, ephemeral world. It's a peculiar thing, isn't it, this desire to capture, to hold on to time. But what do we truly lose, you wonder, when every fleeting moment can be so brutally, irrevocably fixed forever? The subtle metallic tang of the matchstick still clings to the air, a stubborn chemical ghost amidst the floral sweetness. It's a discordant note, an unwelcome intruder in the garden's carefully cultivated symphony, an aroma of change. You find your gaze returning to Mr. Abernathy, who now holds a small rectangular card, not a miniature painting, but something far starker, more immediate. He brandishes it with a flourish, his words carried on the breeze, slicing through the genteel hum. "Imagine, ladies and gentlemen," he pronounces, his voice brimming with a peculiar, almost aggressive triumph, no longer reliant on the painter's eye, the artist's flattering hand. Here a moment truly instantaneous captured by light itself, a perfect likeness free from embellishment, a photograph, a ripple of murmurs hushed and uncertain spreads through the cluster of guests around him. You see Lady Elena, her fan resting motionless in her lap, her usually serene face etched with a subtle frown. Her eyes, wide and almost unnaturally still, fix on the small card in Mr. Abernathy's hand. It's not simply the image that causes this unease, you realize, but the very concept behind it. A truth unvarnished, a moment immutable. The carefully crafted persona, the elegant artifice, the graceful performance that defines this entire afternoon all suddenly feel fragile, vulnerable to this new, unforgiving eye. What if a moment of genuine vexation, a flicker of true boredom, a hint of suppressed pain, were to be captured, frozen forever, defying the unspoken contract of perpetual composure? You feel a quiet tremor, not in the ground, but within the very foundations of this society. The world you understand is shifting. This photograph is but one harbinger. You remember whispers of motor cars, of electric lights, of women daring to cycle without chaperones. Each innovation, each progressive stride seems to chip away at the intricate, familiar patterns of tradition, introducing an unsettling rawness. The delicate strains of the string quartet, usually a comforting constant, now seem thin, almost plaintive, struggling to assert their familiar harmony against the insistent hum of an uncertain future. The manicured hedges, once symbols of controlled nature, now feel like barriers, holding back not just the wild but the inexorable tide of change. You glance at the faces around you, some, like Mr. Abernathy, glow with the zealous light of the new age, eager to embrace the relentless march of progress. Others, like Lady Elena, reveal a quiet apprehension, a subtle tightening around the lips, a deep-seated resistance to this unsettling speed. You feel caught between them, a silent observer in a world poised on a precipice. The air, thick with the scent of fading roses, now carries a sharper, more exhilarating yet terrifying tang of inevitable change. It makes you realize, doesn't it, that even the most beautiful, carefully constructed worlds are ultimately ephemeral, forever buffeted by the relentless winds of the future. And you wonder, with a quiet sense of foreboding, what fragile beauties will be swept away in its unstoppable current, and what new, perhaps unsettling, truths will be brought to light. This garden, so perfect in its present, already holds the seeds of its own transformation. You feel the shift first, a subtle, almost imperceptible drop in the air's temperature against your exposed neck, a gentle whisper of coolness that signals the day's slow retreat. The golden, insistent glare of the afternoon sun, which had relentlessly illuminated every detail, every carefully constructed facade, now mellows into a softer, more forgiving peach. Colors, vibrant just moments ago, begin to deepen, to smudge at their edges, transforming the manicured hedges into denser, more mysterious forms. The familiar garden, so transparent in the harsh daylight, now hints at hidden depths, at secrets waiting to be unveiled by the approaching dusk. Then a new light blossoms, not the sun but tiny amber pinpricks blooming across the garden. Servants, moving with their usual silent efficiency, are igniting the carefully placed lanterns, their warm, buttery glow spilling onto the gravel paths, illuminating pockets of conversation. The air, already thick with the sweet perfume of roses, now carries a faint, almost nostalgic scent of lamp oil, a warm, slightly metallic counterpoint to the natural fragrances. Each lantern, an exquisite ornament hanging from a trellis or nestled amidst the foliage, casts its own small circle of light, a temporary stage for the ongoing drama of the party. You watch as Lady Elena's face, previously so clearly defined by the sun's sharp clarity, softens in this new golden illumination. The subtle lines of worry around her eyes, so apparent just an hour ago, seem to dissolve, becoming mere suggestions, giving her an almost ethereal, melancholic beauty that the day's harsh light never quite permitted. You find yourself drawn to these newly defined spaces, the intimate pools of light inviting a different kind of interaction. A gentleman's smile, which might have seemed overly eager in the afternoon, now takes on a more mysterious, perhaps even alluring, quality in the shifting shadows. The shadows themselves become active participants, don't they? They dance and play across faces, obscuring a hint of boredom in one eye, deepening the intensity of another. A laugh heard from beyond the immediate circle of light seems less clear, its source more ambiguous, allowing for a fleeting anonymity that daylight denied. You adjust your fan not so much for air now, but as a subtle prop in this softer, more deceptive world. The delicate lace on your own gown catches the lantern light, shimmering with a renewed, almost magical luminescence, making you feel, for a moment, less observed, more ethereal. This twilight hour is a master of illusion, a gentle magician. It invites a different kind of truth, or perhaps a different kind of acceptable falsehood. The tension that hummed beneath the bright afternoon sun seems to ease, replaced by a softer, more introspective quiet. Conversations take on a hushed intimacy, secrets feel safer, and declarations, though still polite, carry a weight that the open day could never bear. It's a moment of delightful ambiguity, isn't it? Where the edges of reality blur, and the roles you play feel a little less rigid, softened by the deceptive glow. And you realize that sometimes the true essence of a person or a situation is only truly revealed or indeed truly hidden when the harsh clarity of day gives way to the kind, forgiving shadows of evening, bathed in the soft, golden light of deception. The last vestiges of daylight bleed from the sky, taking with them the sharp edges of the world. You feel a subtle chill creep across your exposed shoulders, a shiver that has little to do with temperature and everything to do with this new, profound sense of vulnerability. The lanterns, once mere decorative twinkles, now assert their dominance, casting long, dancing shadows that twist and stretch across the lawn, transforming familiar faces into fleeting, half-glimpsed visages. What was clear in the sun is now beautifully, dangerously obscure. You find yourself observing Lady Alina in this altered light. Her earlier serene expression, softened by twilight, has now given way to something more raw. As a shadow from a nearby hedge stretches across her face, it seems to carve out a hollow beneath her eyes, deepening a weariness that daylight had so diligently disguised. Her smile, when she offers it to a passing acquaintance, feels less like a genuine expression and more like a fragile painted thing teetering on the edge of a precipice. The subtle tension in her jaw, previously almost imperceptible, now seems to stand out, a stark relief in the shifting gloom. The polite hum of conversation, once so easily deciphered, takes on a different quality. Voices seem to drop, becoming more hushed, more intimate, as if the surrounding darkness encourages secrets, emboldens whispers that would never dare to surface in the unforgiving glare of day. You hear a fleeting, almost sharp intake of breath from a lady nearby, her hand flying to her throat as a shadow briefly engulfs her, and in that instinctive gesture you sense a hidden anxiety, a momentary lapse of composure. The pervasive scent of night-blooming jasmine, now more potent, feels cloying, almost suffocating, as if the perfume itself is heavy with unsaid words, with the weight of concealed emotions. The very air around you seems charged with these unspoken truths, these half-glimpsed anxieties made possible by the softening of light. You subtly adjust the delicate fan in your hand, its ivory sticks catching the dim light, offering a tiny, illusory shield against the emerging revelations. This ambiguity, this gentle cloak of obscurity, grants a peculiar freedom, doesn't it? The freedom to reveal, or to believe you can reveal, something genuine, something true, without the full, stark consequence of glaring scrutiny. It makes you ponder, doesn't it, how much we rely on the clarity of day to maintain our carefully constructed facades, our roles, our impeccable composure. And how, when that clarity begins to recede, when the world softens into shades of grey and amber, the true, often uneasy, currents of the human heart begin to surface, drawn out by the seductive, dangerous beauty of obscurity. The shadows, you realize, are not merely an absence of light. They are a canvas for deeper, more authentic truths, a quiet stage where true delight and profound unease can, at last, truly emerge. You feel it, don't you, that sudden, distinct coolness beneath your thin satin slipper as you step off the manicured gravel path. It's the soft, yielding dampness of earth, shaded and undisturbed, a stark, grounding contrast to the rigid artifice of the garden party. The sweet, cloying scent of cultivated roses abruptly lessens, replaced by a darker, richer aroma of moist soil, of decaying leaves, and the sharp, green tang of dense, overgrown privet. You take a tentative step forward, then another, the rustle of your silk gown muffled by the towering, impenetrable walls of the hedge maze. The distant strains of the string quartet, the tinkling laughter, the hum of polite conversation all begin to recede, becoming faint, ethereal echoes. You are no longer merely stepping into a different part of the garden, you are entering another world entirely. The air here is cooler, heavier, carrying with it a thrilling sense of enclosure. The neatly trimmed topiary outside gave a sense of controlled nature, but here the hedges, though precisely cut, create a labyrinthine wilderness. You stretch out a gloved hand, the rough, cool leaves brushing against the fine kid leather, a tactile affirmation of your secret escape. You turn a corner, then another, the paths twisting and converging with disorienting regularity. The last lingering rays of the setting sun struggle to penetrate the dense foliage, leaving the narrow passageways in a soft, verdant gloom. For the first time all afternoon, you feel truly, wonderfully unseen. The hundreds of appraising eyes, the quiet judgments, the constant scrutiny, they are all for these precious moments banished beyond the green walls. A strange, almost rebellious thrill bubbles up within you, a sensation of lightness that has nothing to do with the heavy air and everything to do with the sudden absence of expectation. You glance back, but the entrance is already lost, swallowed by the maze's intricate design. A soft breath escapes your lips, unmeasured, uninhibited, a small sigh of pure, exhilarating freedom. The damp earth beneath your feet feels less like a threat and more like a welcome secret, a natural confession in this world of polished surfaces. You find yourself smiling, not the polite, carefully constructed smile of the party, but a genuine, spontaneous curve of your lips, a private delight in this unexpected anonymity. This maze, designed for playful confusion, has instead offered a surprising clarity, a momentary reprieve from the relentless demands of the visible world. You realize that sometimes the most profound sense of self is found not in the spotlight, but in the quiet, disorienting thrill of being utterly, completely lost from view. You feel it, don't you? The cool, damp embrace of the privet leaves brushing against your gloved hands as you deliberately push deeper into the twisting paths of the hedge maze. It's a sensation utterly unlike the delicate rustle of silk or the smooth cool of porcelain. These leaves are rough, slightly scratchy, carrying the fresh, earthy scent of dense foliage, a wildness that subtly asserts itself over the cultivated perfumes of the garden. The polite strains of the string quartet, the tinkling laughter, the insistent drone of conversation, all now fade into a distant, muffled hum swallowed by the towering green walls. A thrilling sense of disorientation takes hold. Each turn looks much like the last, the paths converging and diverging in a playful, deliberate confusion. You choose a path almost on instinct, a small act of rebellion against the meticulously ordered logic that governs every other aspect of this afternoon. The air, cooler and heavier here, carries a faint, rich aroma of undisturbed earth, a primal scent of damp soil and hidden roots that cuts through the cloying sweetness of the roses. For a moment, you close your eyes, drawing a deep, unrestricted breath, a luxury your corseted ribs have denied you for hours. It feels almost intoxicating, this full, expansive inhale, a physical declaration of momentary freedom. You allow your posture to soften just a fraction. The rigid constraint of your stays, a constant, low-level ache, seems to lessen its grip in this liberating obscurity. You lift a hand not to flutter a fan, but to simply touch the rough leaves, feeling their cool, slightly dusty texture against your kid leather glove. The fear of being observed, of being judged, of committing some minor breach of decorum feels wonderfully distant, banished by the impenetrable green walls that surround you. You can almost taste the quiet joy of this secret escape, a sharp, exhilarating flavor contrasting with the bland sweetness of the party cakes. You imagine the other guests, still engaged in their polite rituals, oblivious to your brief, intentional absence. There's a quiet satisfaction in this small act of defiance, this fleeting abandonment of your meticulously constructed role. The very act of being lost, you realize, offers a surprising clarity, a momentary reprieve from the relentless demands of being perfectly found. This maze, designed for playful confusion, has instead offered a surprising clarity, a momentary reprieve from the relentless demands of the visible world. It's a fleeting, intoxicating taste of something genuine, something untamed, in a world built upon such meticulous artifice. And you realize that sometimes true freedom is found not in grand pronouncements, but in the quiet, rebellious act of stepping off the path, into the beautiful, disorienting chaos of being utterly, wonderfully unseen. You feel it first, don't you? That distinct, almost shocking coldness against your gloved palm as your fingers wrap around the polished metal of the carriage handle. It's an abrupt, sharp sensation, a metallic jolt after hours spent in the humid warmth of the garden. The air itself feels different out here, thinner, tinged with the scent of horse and leather, cutting through the lingering sweetness of the roses and lilies. Above you, the carefully hung lanterns cast a softer, more deceptive glow, illuminating the final, lingering goodbyes. You turn, offering one last perfectly calibrated smile to your hostess. It feels stretched, a brittle thing, your facial muscles aching from hours of pleasantry. Your eyes, though bright and attentive, betray a deep, underlying weariness, a subtle flicker that you pray remains unseen. You exchange a final, polite nod with a gentleman passing by, his own smile a mirror of your own, equally forced, equally exhausted. This entire ritual of departure, you realize, is just another act in the long, elaborate performance of the day. The fine silk of your gown, which had felt a burden hours ago, now feels like a heavy, comforting armor, promising a final few moments of elegant concealment. You hear the soft scuff of other ladies, slippers on the gravel, the gentle clatter of a carriage pulling away, and the hushed murmurs of farewells. Everyone plays their part, doesn't they? Each person a carefully composed tableau of effortless grace, right until the very last moment. You catch Lady Elena's eye across the jostling crowd. Her lips are curved into a serene smile, but her hand, as it adjusts her shawl, holds a tension you recognize, a quiet declaration of her own impending release. You feel the slight give of the carriage step as you ascend, the rustle of your crinoline a final, dignified whisper. The interior, though slightly stuffy with the scent of old leather and horsehair, promises an immediate, exquisite relief. The thought alone sends a quiet tremor of anticipation through you. You settle onto the plush velvet seat, your body sinking, for the first time all day, into something yielding. It's a strange thing, isn't it? To spend an entire afternoon in a state of carefully managed delight and unease, only to find the truest pleasure in the quiet, almost melancholic act of leaving. You close your eyes for a brief moment, the cool metal of the carriage handle still a phantom touch on your hand, and you realize that the most profound freedom often arrives not with fanfare, but in the private, unspoken moment when the final, forced smile finally, wonderfully falls away. The heavy carriage door clicks shut, a solid, final thud that severs you from the garden's lingering glow and the polite hum of farewells. You feel an immediate, almost overwhelming silence descend, profound and physical. The air inside, though warm, no longer feels charged with appraisal. For a blissful moment you simply exist. Then it begins. The involuntary slump of your shoulders, the slow, almost painful relaxation of facial muscles clenched for hours. Your carefully maintained smile, that brittle, aching curve, finally falls away. Your jaw eases open slightly, a silent, weary sigh escaping. You lean back, the velvet seat a stark, exquisite contrast to the rigid posture held all afternoon. Your gown, once armor, now feels a weighty burden, its purpose gone. You glance across. Lady Elena, a deep pool of sapphire silk, has undergone a similar transformation. Her fan lies discarded, her head tilted back, eyes closed. The subtle strain around her mouth, disguised moments ago, is now starkly visible, a testament to a shared, silent battle. A quiet, knowing current passes between you, an acknowledgement of the profound effort required to navigate that glittering world. The faint, stale scent of roses mingles with horsehair. You take a deep, shuddering breath, a luxury your corseted ribs finally permit. The air tastes of exhaustion, of release. This overwhelming fatigue, not from physical exertion but from relentless performance. The mask, you realize, has dropped, and the true weight of the day settles upon you, heavy with the bittersweet taste of profound relief. This private moment is the truest pleasure of the afternoon, the glorious freedom found in being unobserved. You feel it first, not a touch, but a sudden, almost poignant sense of absence. Your footman holds open the carriage door, the last few guests are murmuring their goodbyes, and the garden, though still aglow with lanterns, feels quieter, softer, already receding into memory. It's then, just as you're about to step into the comforting dimness of the carriage, that your eye catches a flash of pale cream against the dark gravel path. You pause, a deliberate, almost imperceptible delay in your departure. It's a delicate kid glove, half-curled, as if still retaining the shape of its owner's hand. You bend, the movement a controlled rustle of silk, and your gloved fingers gently retrieve it. The leather is surprisingly cool against your palm, retaining the evening's subtle chill, and then you smell it, not the lingering, cloying sweetness of the garden's roses, nor the faint aroma of lamp oil, but something else entirely. A distinct, delicate fragrance of crushed violets, its faint, ephemeral, clinging to the soft leather, yet it speaks volumes. Violets, you recall, signify modesty, hidden affection. But crushed hints at a moment of hurriedness, perhaps distress, a sudden, careless motion that left this intimate garment behind. You imagine its owner hurrying away, perhaps lost in thought, a fleeting, private concern eclipsing the meticulous composure of the afternoon. You glance around, but the remaining figures are distant, their faces obscured by shadows and the soft, deceptive glow of the lanterns. No one seems to notice the small, intimate object now nestled in your hand. The scent, so personal, so unexpectedly potent, carries a quiet weight. It evokes the countless unspoken exchanges of the afternoon, the hidden anxieties beneath the delight, the subtle messages passed in glances and gestures, all now distilled into this single, forgotten item. The cool metal of the carriage handle as you finally take it feels a sharp contrast to the warmth of the glove. It makes you wonder, doesn't it, how such small, overlooked objects can carry such profound echoes of human presence, of fleeting emotions, of stories left unsaid. This tiny glove, redolent with the scent of crushed violets, becomes a lingering ghost of the day, a silent, intimate testament to the delicate, ephemeral nature of every perfectly composed moment, and the deeper, often hidden, truths that reside just beneath the surface of impeccable propriety. You feel it, don't you, that exquisite, almost dizzying rush of air against your skin as the final laces are loosened, and the rigid prison of your corset finally, blessedly, gives way. A deep, shuddering breath escapes your lips, unmeasured, uninhibited, a primal sound of pure, unadulterated relief that echoes in the quiet privacy of your dressing room. The stifling warmth of your own body, trapped for hours beneath layers of silk and linen, now finds release, mingling with the faint, comforting scent of lavender from the wardrobe. Your hands almost instinctively move to your waist, tracing the deep, angry red marks etched into your skin. They are perfect, stark indentations, a meticulous map of the day's rigorous demands, where whalebone and tight lacing have pressed their will upon your flesh. The skin feels tender, almost bruised, a silent testament to the endurance required to maintain that impossibly small waist, that effortlessly upright posture. You press a fingertip against one of the deeper grooves, feeling a dull ache, a ghost of the pressure that bound you. But even in that small discomfort, there's a strange satisfaction, a feeling of having met a challenge, of having fulfilled an expectation. You glance at your reflection in the cheval glass, stripped of the vibrant gown, the elaborate coiffure, the polished facade. Your hair, now unpinned, tumbles around your shoulders, a soft, rebellious cascade. Your eyes, no longer bright with polite interest, hold a deep, undeniable exhaustion. This is the truth of the day, you realize, this weary body, this marked skin, this quiet moment of unraveling. But the imprints aren't merely physical, are they? As you move, as you draw another deep, unrestricted breath, the echoes of the garden party begin to surface in your mind. You feel the ghost of Lord Ashworth's oily compliment, still clinging to your perception like a faint, unpleasant residue. You hear the sharp, almost painful cadence of whispered gossip, its barbs still pricking at the edges of your composure. You recall the phantom coolness of Lady Elena's Parisian silk, triggering that familiar, subtle sting of comparison, that quiet, relentless calculus of worth. The unsettling future, hinted at by the mention of a photograph, still feels like a distant but insistent tremor beneath your feet. Even the memory of the sharp, acrid smell of the matchstick seems to momentarily sting your nostrils. You imagine Lady Elena in her own private chamber, undergoing a similar ritual of release, her delicate skin equally marked, her mind equally swirling with the day's unspoken dramas. A shared silence, a shared exhaustion, a quiet, intimate understanding that transcends the public performances you both so meticulously delivered. It is a profound thing, isn't it? This human capacity for endurance, for presenting oneself to the world while harboring an entirely different, more fragile, more exhausted being beneath. The lingering redness on your skin, a temporary map of constraint, becomes a poignant symbol. It makes you wonder about all the other invisible imprints, the mental marks and emotional bruises that society leaves upon us, silently shaping who we are, long after the silk has been folded and the lanterns extinguished. We wear these marks, both seen and unseen, don't we? A quiet testament to the enduring cost of living in a world so exquisitely, yet demandingly structured. And you realize that in these moments of private unraveling, we truly begin to understand the real weight of our beautifully constructed lives.